Okay. Hope everybody can hear me okay. Uh, Gonna be doing a super secret uh, sketch card today, and you can't see the layout. I hope you can. I did it light on purpose so that you guys can see it. Um, let's see here. I'm going to share this with the page, and then we're going to knock it out. What it is I've done my own version of the Grinch. Um, a lot of people know him from the Grinch That Stole Christmas from the Dr. Seuss books, and that's the same one. But this is going to be a very unique look, I hope. And I'm going to have him in a Christmas hat and all that, and we're going to go from there. But something cool that I'm going to be doing tonight that is not um, norm for me at all. What I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to be inking with these new microns. I got these 005s. They're micro tips, but I'm going to be using colored inks. So we're going to go straight into this and see how it goes. I am going in blind here because I sketched this out, but I kept it very, very small. And we're going to see how these pan out. And I'm going straight to ink. I've never done this before, especially with these cards, and I'm hoping that they don't bleed to death. But we'll see what happens. But I'm going to see about drawing this bad boy in with microns. And I've got some thicker colored Sharpies here that I may switch to as well. But I just wanted to give it a shot and see how it's going to work out. So we'll go from there. He has these funny little red lips. Nobody ever says, you know, hey, the Grinch has red lips, but he does. And if it looks a little hairy while I'm sketching it, I'll get some thicker pins out and clean it up in post. But right now, I just want to draw this and see if I can pull it off for you guys, doing something really cool. I thought with the holidays coming up, you know, and us being among the first of them with Halloween and Thanksgiving just passing, I thought this would be a cool twist and add on to it that we haven't had before. And just letting you guys know, I have a special comic coming out, a special free online version of a comic book coming out for you guys closer to Christmas. That is going to be really cool. It has to do with the holiday and whatnot. I'm not going to expose that right now because I didn't want it to be all strange, you know, and it's like, man, we just finished Turkey Day. We're still eating the leftovers. Don't do that. I don't want it to be like that, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. But give me a couple days and I'll knock it out. I just started working on that script officially today, so I wanted to give my fans something cool for Christmas that can be passed around and shared and whatnot, and hopefully everybody digs it because that's my favorite time of year. I love Christmas. I'm a Christmas fanatic, and I'm a huge Santa fan myself. Very, very cool. Now, as you can see, this is a very light layout I've got here because I used a which one did I use? I think I used the Pentel bright yellow that it has. It's got a greenish yellow, and I wanted to do something really cool with that. And I think that's the one I used to lay it out. I'm not sure. I've got 3 or 4 of them over here, which I was tinkering with along the way to knock this out. Giving him very grimacing eyes here. The Grinch always has a leer about him, you know, to where he always looks like he's sneaky about something or other. And as I draw this, I can hear that song going through my head, which I will not sing it, but my daughter would probably enjoy that, but I won't do it. So, sorry. Just not going there. Huh. And the funny thing is I do sing, but not professionally in any way, form, or fashion. I really enjoy it, but that's something I save for the family. Used to sing in church and things like that. Not half bad either, if I do say so myself. Now I'm going to come in right down here into this neck, kind of overlapping this a little bit, bring the fur up, and I'm going to thicken that up a little bit because I want it to go out this way as I come down and around. I like his fur to stick out a little further than most people do. When most people draw it, especially in the original, Dr. Seuss kept them very tight, but the later incarnations from, like the animation and whatnot, turned it out just a little bit more. But that's okay. And like I said, I'm going very blind here in this one because of the fact that I didn't lay this all out, because I wanted to sketch this very raw for you guys and see what we came up with. I want to thicken up that eyebrow a little bit. Even though he's got it flexed down, I still want to have it pop just a little bit heavier than it actually is on that one side. Now, the reason I'm skipping around here is because I don't want to cross over into the hat and the coat, because I have them in here too. And I'm going to be using the good old standard black for that one to go around the hat in here, kind of make it stand up off his head a little bit better. Now, like I said, I don't know if that's going to show up or not. I'm checking my monitor. Looks like it's coming off all right. There we go. Cool. And now right about here, we'll put that big tuft that's on the hat right about there. Like I said, I'm not drawing this blind. I did give myself guidelines here, but I didn't map anything out. I wanted it to be raw for you guys. So, I mean, I'm not trying to trick anybody or anything like that. I did draw guidelines here, and they're roughly here, but I left them wide open so that we could do this and see how it's going to come across, if it's going to be really cool or if it's going to be horrifying and probably the worst card that I've ever done. Just saying. It's bound to happen at some point. So, there we go. Cool deal. Okay, now I've got that going on. I'm going to come down here from the bottom right about here. He's got the fluffy cloud looking, um, well, the snow padding or white padding, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to go in with the good old red again right here. And like I said, this is a fun, easygoing Saturday card. I just wanted to see what it would look like if I did this and see what you guys thought of the end result. And we'll find out here shortly. Because I thought this one would be fun. And if not, we won't do this again. But for now, you know, for a one-off, I thought it would be a blast. And from when I used to do Christmas cards, this is a really cool reflection on how I used to do those. I used to do abstract Christmas cards and then freelance and sell them to companies. Which I found pretty cool. It was fun. But anyway. I don't normally color these things in with pins, but in this case, I'm going to make the exception for his nose and his eyebrows so that we can get into detail. And then I'm going to switch over to the pencils, and I'll start carving some of this out for you guys so that we can see more of what's going on. Because right now he is really abstract. Really abstract. Now, what I'm going to do next, like I said, I'm going to take over the cute old pencils and start hammering some of this out so we can see some of these details. Really quick here. And yes, I know I went outside the lines. I color like a preschooler, but in some cases worse. But I just wanted to sketch this out a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it with the smoothing tool, the smudge pencil that I have, and it'll grind all that down and make it one smooth color. And I'll erase the overflows, of course. But like I said, I wanted to try this and see how it went, and see if we could do a sketch card or not. Because this looks kind of like a, to me, it looks, when you do it like this, it looks like a light bright from like when you were, you know, a little kid, that kind of thing. And it just has a really cool nostalgic feel to it that a lot of people like. And I've been dying to try this technique because I haven't done it in forever. And with these new microns, they come out really clean. So we'll see when I get into the pencils for the actual fur and start toning. We'll see how it goes. Well, for right now, though, this one is the one that I wanted to knock out and have a little bit of fun with, because I don't do a lot of this kind of thing because it's so raw, and you're either good at it or you're not. And I tend to lean towards the fact that I'm probably not the best guy to do things like this. But I wanted to shake things up a little bit. Like I said, trying new techniques this weekend, and I just wanted to do something a little different. So there we go with it. Now I'm going to put in, I'm going to grab some of this super light yellow, this yellow green here. I'm going to start laying the foundation for the Grinch. And because it's solid, I can do pretty much everything all at one time and use this as the base and then build it up. Because it's got so much yellow in it, it shows that that yellow green that I want. And then when I smooth the fur all out, it'll still leave the bright green lines from the pins. So it won't coat them to the extent of ruining it. And right now, like I said, I'm not coloring in every little speck on this, because what I'm tending to do is just fill this in as a baseline so that I can tone it up. Because I want this to be really cartoony in the way that it's coming off. And I want to build it out. So, but I'm trying to do it really quick so that we can get the baselines down, and then I'll show you guys the finished product, of course, later on. But I just wanted to, because I don't want to be here all night on this and keep you guys from whatever you're doing. But I just wanted to get moving forward with a very simple build-up. Now, because this is all the yellow color in here, what we're going to do is we're going to start right underneath the eye, and I'm going to darken that up. And I'll make that patch around his mouth kind of thing come out. And right in here is his lower lip, and you have to be very careful with this because there's a fuller green lip on top and bottom. That's why the space doesn't go all the way down here, because there's a lip in there. These are the insides of his lip, and that is the bulk of his lip on his face. And if you overdo that, you will kill the look of the character. It will not look like him at all. Now, as this comes up, you'll start to see this thicken out, and he'll start to look a little more like the Grinch we know, and not quite so flat. So there we go. Shadowing some of this out, making him start to pop up a little more. A little more green, like he's supposed to. Like under this brow ridge, that kind of thing. Now, believe it or not, he doesn't have green eyes. He has blue eyes. So if you ever draw him, keep that into consideration, because he doesn't have green eyes. They're blue. They're bright blue, in fact. Everybody said Jim Carrey did it wrong when he had the big blue eyes in it, but the funny thing is that was spot on. He had bright blue eyes. Now I'll drop some black in there and put the put the pupils in, all that good stuff. But I wanted to cut that in, that blue in really solid first. It kind of looks like the new DuckTales. Have you guys seen that? I'm dropping in some blue lines right here because I decided to go blue instead of black on his eyes here, on his pupils. But yeah, if you haven't seen the reboot for DuckTales, DuckTales and Tailspin, and what's the other one? What's the other one they just came out with and premiered 2 episodes of over the holiday? It was Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck. They're all back in that old school style animation, and it's a really, really strange look for the characters, but that's, you know, it is what it is. So I'm gonna go back in here, and I'm gonna put in the dark fur now, and this is where he'll really come up, if he does at all, I hope, because this is where that fur will start to come into play here. And like I said, I'm not trying to do it in a Dr. Seuss style. I wanted to do it in a modern animated style and see how it would come up. And hopefully this will pull him out. And then when I put the dark green fine lines in for the hair to make it pop off, I'm hoping he'll pop right up. But we may have an abstract version here, which I'm fine with too, because I really dig this anyway. So, you know, I'm okay with that too. Just don't let this turn you off the card watching, because it's not my normal style. But as artists, we have a responsibility to try and expand what we do in our work so that we can reach new heights and new levels and new fans and new techniques and all that good stuff. So got to stick with it, you know. And granted, I'm not trying to turn anybody out. Oop, I almost put a big green streak across that. I dropped my pencil. That would have been a bummer. I'm not trying to turn anybody off of the work I'm doing here or anything, because this is a cool piece nonetheless. I mean, it's going to come out. It's going to start to come up. Just got to bear with it. Darken it up around these eyes so that he starts to get that grimacing look like he always has. And it's funny because I'm getting messages, because I put out this card for the post. Is a special super secret Squirrel Saturday sketch card, and because I put it out, a lot of people are freaking out now because I didn't do Super Squirrel. The Super Secret Squirrel, which is an agent from a cartoon. He's a super secret agent from a cartoon, and he has Morocco Mole as his partner and all that. And I didn't do that character, and I think a lot of people were expecting that. I apologize if you did, because that's not what I did here. That's not the character I went after. Not that I won't at some point. It's just not today. Just not today. Because I wanted to make this animated style Grinch. Like I said, I wanted to make it old school, like you would see in a children's book, or possibly in a modern cartoon from Disney, because this is the way they do it. Kind of rough marking this up a little bit for the fur to make it look more like him. And now comes the cool part. We're taking this super light gray here. And like I said, I'll smooth this out as I get to it. Later on, I'll go in and smooth this out a little bit where it'll come together a little better with my smudge tool. And just so you guys know what I'm talking about by that, if you don't know, Prismacolor puts out the best one that I've seen yet. It's the Prismacolor PC 1070. These things are colorless blenders, and they are freaking awesome. They're about $2, $3 a piece, depending on where you live and where they are. And you can use these things over these colors and they'll smooth them out. Okay. And that's what's going to happen here shortly as I work on this. But I just wanted to let you guys know that's, you know, and they work with pretty much any pencil, any colored pencil brand that you use. They even really work well with Crayola, which I thought that would be horrible, but it comes out with beautiful, beautiful color lines. So if you're doing that and you're into it, you should check it out, because I'm coloring the Lone Rider comic book with pencil work like this, and of course it's traditional pencil art and it's a lot heavier. But if you get into pencils and want to check them out and want to see what you can do with them, try these guys, because they work out really, really well. Let me see here. I'm trying to find my really, really dark green. I may have to go, hold on just a sec. I gotta grab my color tray. What did I do with it? There we go. Hopefully they won't all crash into the floor here. Oh, let's see. I can just see it now. I stopped drawing, so everybody's going to be like, hey, man, where'd you go? So we're going to try a couple of these different colors here and see if I can't thicken this up. And these have a finer point on them, so we can get a couple of the actual fur lines that we look for. Hey, Kevin, thanks for making it on, man. I saw you there. I'm not ignoring you. I saw your comment when I moved. I was just in a hurry to get this on board here. And now I know this is a darker green, but I really want to pop out a few of those fur lines to blend into this, to make those highlights really show up. Because right here under the lines where I drew in his eyelids, that's a facial mark that we need to prominently have pop out. So that's what I'm going to go in and darken up right up under here, because that really gives him that Grinch expression that we all know. See, I told you it'd come together. There's the edge of the mouth, which everybody loves to see on this guy, and those deep cheeks. See, he's starting to pop out. Told you he would. You got to trust me, though. So, somebody that would really dig this would be Jim. Mr. Jim O'Reilly hiding out there. Jim. He's out there somewhere. He's probably working on his book right now. Which, like I said, I know this isn't what you expected. You guys probably expected from me in the norm. But, see, I can blend that line down really well. That's where that came in at. But this is a piece that's coming along really well. I'm happy with it. And like I said, when I used to do abstract art for Christmas cards and things like that, which I used to do a lot of when I was younger, I used to do those things on the side all the time, because there was really good money into it. Rob Liefeld does a lot of those. He does a lot of Christmas cards, a lot of the sports cars and stuff like that. He does a lot of that over in Beyond Comics. So Most of my work now is strictly comic books, so. But yeah, Rob's well known for doing a bunch of that stuff. And right in here, right at the nose right here, this is very mild. This is not a huge dip. This is very, very mild on this indentation. Otherwise, you make him look like a cat or a bear, and it looks just weird. But if you put just a mild edge underneath there, it comes right off. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my black, and I'm going to shade this in so he'll really pop up. Now I know this is going to look a little funky at first, but once it blends, that'll turn down into a dark green instead of a bright black. That's just the way pencils work when you're coloring with them like this. That's why you put just a little bit in, because you'll see guys going and just black everything out, and you can't do that when you're using color hues like this because you'll choke it out. It's not as aggressive because you use it soft in patches like this, and then you blend it out, and then it doesn't overwhelm your image. It won't overwhelm it. Especially to the point to where it ruins the color or makes it muddy. Because if you're doing that, you're doing it wrong. I'm sorry to tell you, but if you use it to the point to where you can see the color and it overwhelms the colors that you put in there, then you're not doing it right. But it's an accent color. Putting it right up underneath that ridge of his face there. Toning that down a little bit. Right off that eyebrow and around that eye socket. Because that'll shadow that down and make it look like it's supposed to underneath there. Then I'll put a little bit underneath that hair of the eyebrow. That should be a drink. Someone should come up with a drink and call it the hair of the Grinch. I'm not a drinking man, but I know people that would find that hilarious. And right along this hat here and this outer edge, I'm going to put in just a little bit of this gray here to show some shadowing. Like it's actually sitting on his nugget. Okay. I bet you guys thought that this wasn't going to pop out, huh? Yeah, you can admit it. You can admit it. We're all friends here. So now right underneath this nose, I'm going to put a chunk right there of that green nose to darken it out. And then right underneath the seam of this lip, I want to make sure that I've got enough of a point to do it. I might have to sharpen this. But right underneath the edge of this lip, to show that partition where it folds in, put just a little bit of a line right there and make it pop up. And then a shadow seam on that bottom, the bottom of that top lip, so that it looks more three-dimensional, like it's going to pop off, like it's going to separate. Like he can actually open his mouth. That's a cool thing. A lot of children's book artists do this kind of technique, and I'm not big on that look, you know, that antique look, but this as a new animation style, as a modern animation take, I'm really impressed with it. It's very clean, and it's not as creepy, you know, as bronzy as it used to be. Because for a while, the children's books, you know, it was just that old school, you know, just that really dark, almost turn of the century type of look, you know, and it's not very flattering anymore to the modern conceptual artist in many cases, you know. That's just one of those things. But in this cleaner animated style with this almost a CGI type of look where it's almost like drawn on a computer kind of thing, it gives it a different effect. And instead of going off with crazy here, I don't want to mute my yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath and mute it this way with green, so you guys can get that classic Grinch swirled look on his cheeks, like you could just reach out and touch the fur, and that's what we want. And the way you get that is you go from the outside of the pockets you want to tone down and leave the highlight in the center, and you make spirals. Even right here, I'll do it there, and I'll do it right here. And what that does is it makes pitch segments throughout. So he still looks solid, and the highlight's still there, but you didn't overwhelm it to where you ruined it. You know, you'll mud it up if you don't, and you go in solid on it. Now on this highlight on the brow, I'm going to be very cautious with that because it's going to take 3 sections. It's going to go in 1. It's going to go in this little knob right here at the highest point, which is the least colored, and then it's going to go on this side too. So you got that going. Now 1, and then 2, and then 3. But at that peak point's where you want to leave it alone the most. So then you got a peak point right here. So you got to shade that in, shade that one in, and shade in the nose here. And I got to be careful with this one so I don't take it too dark, because just a little too much shading and it'll ruin the whole thing. So, told you I wanted to make that happen. Now I'm going to go in with the reds. I've got a crimson color red here. I've got a bright red. I've got a crimson color red, and I've got a brown. It's almost a chocolate color. And the reason I want to have this one is because I'm going to be doing this hat, and I want it to stand up and contrast his skin. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to go the other direction of the red that I put on there already. You know, you can see that where I colored this one horizontal, I'm going to color this one at a diagonal, where it'll help fill in some of those holes where the paper's showing through, and it'll smooth it out. If you're ever coloring an image, go on the contrasting parallel to whatever you're coloring at the time and whatever you've previously laid. So if you color one direction, color the other direction, and it'll fill in all those holes. See, I'm going vertical with this one right here, where I went horizontal last time across the board, and see, it's just filling that right in. And most people argue that point, because the first thing they'll do is start saying, well, sure you did. You colored it 2 ways and filled it in. You know, you colored it harder and filled it in. No, it's the contrast of the coloring. Trust me. You can ask pretty much any card artist out there, especially sketch card artist and comic book artist. We have to mess with this stuff all the time, and there's a lot of abstract art out there that you have to use specific things for, like pencil coloring and things like that. And I'm saying abstract because of the fact that it's very abstract in the way it's drawn, like this, because it's either an outline or it's got a lot of heavy blacks in it, and you have to use contrasting colors to fill that in. I like to do this with pencils a lot, and I know some guys, some European guys, especially out of France, a lot of French artists use pencils today, just like they did back in the day, you know. That's a style over there, and they will tell you flat out that this is contrasting. I knocked a spare pencil off the table. I'll get that after. Okay, yeah, I don't like the way that red looks, so what I'm going to do is go straight to the brown, because it's not dark enough. And I've got a ridge here where I laid that that green outline. Now what I'm going to do is not go over the red outline and crush it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shadow it. Okay, that's what you do when you do these colored inks like this. That's how they make them work. They make them pop that way. Don't go and crush your outline, because that'll ruin the aesthetic of the look completely. Now what I can do is go in here in these ridges, and like I said, when I smooth all this out, it'll match up really well. I'm going to shadow this hat. I'm going to leave that line over here. I'm going to put this line up over here. And when this is shaded down and blended, it'll all come together and look like a dark red on the hat, and it'll look old-fashioned, like when Dr. Seuss painted the originals for the animation and all that. And you know, I'm sorry, I'm shaking the desk here as I'm coloring this because I'm heavy-handed today. Been doing a lot of stuff, but anyway, it'll pop up like it's supposed to. See, I hope that shows okay. Now what I'll do is I'll go in here and put in a nice little shadow to thicken this up and shade it down. And I'll leave that part open. Then I'll come over here in between the sleeves and under the collar here. And like I said, I wanted to have that antiqued kind of Santa Claus look, you know, where it's the awkward brown maroon type of suit. It looks like that old felt, and it doesn't exactly look like the bright red Santa that it's supposed to. I like doing that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my blender here, and I'm going to clean the tip where I was doing some work with it earlier. All you got to do is scrub it across a little bit of a page. You don't have to cut the tip off. Just color with it a little bit, and it'll clean it right up, and then you'll be ready to rock and roll. Now, because the hat and the red in it is brighter, I'm going to go on it first. Going right up to the edge here, you'll see a lot of crumbs and things come off, and that's the excess being rubbed off from the wax. And it depends on how you want to go at it. I mean, if you want to go at it hard, go at it hard. I like to go at it lighter and not take off the entire element. You know, a lot of people will go off and take off all of the color and smudge it down to nothing, to where it's just one big smooth blob. I don't like to do that. I think it takes the texture and the characteristic out of the artwork when you go overkill with it. So what I like to do is I like to go and blend it all in and make it look antiqued, rather than overworked to the extent of mudded up, as some people will do. But it's up to you, as you know, what your personal preference is as the artist involved. Now I'm gonna kind of take my finger here. I don't want to smudge this into the card, because all these little pieces running around will get into the card and they'll smudge them. So wipe them off, dust them off, but don't smudge them across, or else you'll have colored streaks. Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not cool. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and do the same thing here really quickly. Blend that all together. Make it look like the card is all colored up like the Grinch is supposed to be. Now, the reason I'm going vertical right here is because I'm smoothing that out for that shoulder line for the seam of the costume. Because I don't want that to be ground down and not present, as it were. There we go. I'm going to do the other side, obviously. Kind of smoothing this down a little bit. I want a little heavy on this side because this is the shadow portion because he's turned away from us here. So that's a little thicker. And now there's the hat and the suit. I'm going back up to my page here. Feel like old Walt Foster. Did you ever watch Walt Foster with his calm collecting? Gonna go dab the brush in here and make some trees and whatnot. On PBS, he was all over it. Now that I've got that green in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to softly try to clean this up. I'm making sure that I don't have anything on there. I'm going to go in and blend this together just a little bit. Small circles, staying out of the dark spots for the highlights. I just want to blend it together gently. And not corrupt the red into the green or anything heavy crazy like that. Just want to smooth it down a little. I know it looks really rough at the moment, so bear with me. Okay. Making sure my darks aren't going to smudge everything together and mud it up. That's not what I want to do here. And I know it just looks all crusty right now. So it's like, stop it, that looks crusty. Trying to make it blend into the fur look so it goes all one direction like it's supposed to. And see, this pencil can control the color going together to blend together and make those streaks and stripes like the fur, you know, like people like to see in cartoons and things where it's painted in. When you do that with this particular pencil, this blender works like crazy for that. Then I'll pull up so that doesn't go into the collar. And it thins it out as it gets darker down towards the line there. And on that neckline. Now here comes my personal favorite part, because this is where the eyes go together and start to blend in. This is where it gives it totally hardcore expression. I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't like that style. Well, that's okay if you don't. Because I wasn't a big fan of this either until recently. And then I started toying around with it because of the fact that it's not going to be my comic style or anything, but I started toying around with it for some stuff that I do for kids and, you know, children's books and things like that. And like I said, I wanted to experiment. And what better place to do that than with the primetime artwork that I do here that keeps you guys all watching everything. Okay, I'm going to clean off this tip here, and then I'm going to buff out these eyes. And I'm kind of buffing at them both ways here so that I can go in and erase that. Got to clean my eraser as well. If you ever need to clean your eraser, just rub it on paper. You know, just rub it around like this on paper, and it'll clean it. It'll buff that off. Okay? But don't do it on colored paper, though, because it'll pick up the color from where it buffs the paper. Just doing a little finite work here. There we go. Cool deal. I ran over that eye and I wanted to stay white. So anyway, what did I do with my, there it is. I'm going to go in with my blender here and do one last little patch right here. And there we have, for you guys, what I am going to do here is to pop it up. What I am going to do to pop it up here. So I'm going to take my crazy little Sharpie. And no, I'm not going to outline it because I did all that work to outline it in different colors. What I am going to do is go right around here. And this will pop him up just a little bit. Got to backpedal a little bit because I lifted my pen. Don't do that. Keep your pen on the paper if you're going to do that because it'll put blots on it. And blots like that are where the pen separates from connection to connection. Now the reason I did that is because I'm going to go in here with what color? You're going to go in with a typical purple, which is huge in Dr. Seuss. He loved using bright purples and pinks and things like that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this bright purple here. Just kind of really gentle and fast to get this going. Give it a light coverage. And if you do this in comic books, by the way, if you use this animated style like this, it's fine. But a tip, don't use more than 2 or 3 colors, 5 at most per object. You know, you want to go black, you want to go white, you want to have gray for a shading tone, and then you want to have 2 colors. You want to have a primary and a darker color. You want to have a primary and a secondary. I like to use the brighter as the primary and then shade it with a more darker color, because the reason you do that, and of course I'll erase where I went over there, but the reason you do that is you want to go with your gray and your black for your highlights and shadows, specifically the shadows. You want to use the grays and the blacks for that, and use the secondary color as the toner in between, and use the brighter color as the base, because then you've got the bright color no matter what as the foundation throughout the whole thing, and it tends to pop up and be more lively and not as dark when you go to print. Because some people do it backwards. They like to go with the middle ground color, which would be my secondary color, and then leave spaces for the lighter colors to be colored in, and go with an even darker color, third color, and then you have the grays and the blacks, and then you have the white highlights, that kind of thing. And if you go into all of those dimensions, it tends to wash it out and make it muddy. So don't do that. Just a note or a tip for you: don't do that, because then what it'll do is it'll choke it out, and by that I mean it'll make it muddy. And I'll show you guys an example of that in just a moment if you want to see an actual comic page having this work. And the reason I blend this down in my comic work, the reason I blend it down is because of the fact that when you blend it and you mix the colors, it doesn't only make them smooth and have a better texture look to them, but it clears them up for pre-production. If you go off and do colored pencils or markers or something like that, and you don't use a blender, it will show like every stroke that you colored, rather than showing a a smooth color. And you have to understand that and know how that works to make it reproduce for you. You know, if you don't, when you reproduce it, it will look like crayon. And I mean, they can look really, really bad. Even the best colored pencils like Prismacolor or, you know, Stradler or any of that. Sargent's a really good brand for that. If you don't blend it down, it will tend to look like it was colored by a 5-year-old, whether you're all in the lines or you're spot on or not. Always blend it for reproduction, because if you don't, you will pay for it. It will look like I said, someone tried to color something with crayons instead of using actual proper tools. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. Okay. I'm going to get this dust off of here. Okay. So there we have it. Now, if you want to see an example, if you guys want to see a couple of examples, yeah, Bob Ross is one of the guys that does that too. Walt Foster used to do that, but Bob Ross definitely did that. He was the one I was actually thinking of with the brushes. See, you guys can see here, I haven't cleaned up the framework from the prints. I have to black that out, but I'll do that in post in the computer. But these haven't been blended yet, but you know, this is what I do with this, where I talked about two tones. There's two tones in each one of these, and they'll be blended out. So something to think about when you're doing this. Now, here we go. Here is our animated style Grinch. And that's where we're at with it. I hope you guys dig it, and hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was cool. I think it's a nice little twist to the set. So I will catch you guys tomorrow with more. Take care.